Welcome to the Bracket Factory and welcome to the latest thrilling episode of the big American LaFrance V12 engine special project. Now, in the last episode, I told you that I was going to start looking at the gearbox and trying to work out what I was going to do. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got a gearbox yet, so I've decided to do something that I've been meaning to do and wanting to do for quite a long time. So this is it.
Right, so the plan here is to get rid of these manifolds. This is the exhaust manifold, that's the inlet manifold. So starting off with the exhaust, why get rid of it? One, it's very heavy. Two, it's very ugly. Three, it's broken anyway. And four, it kind of kills the noise. And if I wanted a quiet engine, I would have gone for a Tesla. And then the inlet manifold. So what I'm going to do for the exhaust is I'm going to make some manifold flanges, and then have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, obviously 6 individual stub pipes pointing out at an angle, and I'm going to make it such that at a later stage I can slip on a collector. But for a start, it's just going to have open exhausts, so that should make a quite cool noise. The inlet manifold, a bit more complicated. It's got 1, 2, 3 ports, and they are Siamese, or the ports are shared between adjacent cylinders. And I'm going to have 1, 2, 3 inlet manifolds, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 SU carbs. It sounds like a balancing nightmare, doesn't it? It probably is, but it should look quite good. And I have got a soft spot for SU carbs. So first off, I'm going to take off one of these sides. They're identical, the sides. Take off one of these sides, one of these, and we can start looking at how we're going to make these flanges. Right, manifolds off, and I can see these surfaces now. So these are the exhaust ports. This is the clue here. I had no gaskets. These are, let's have a measure. These are 36 millimeters. These are the inlets. These are a bit bigger. What are these? 37, 38. So I'm going to have a flange here, a single flange with 2 exhausts on, two outlets. Same here, that's identical but mirror, and then one there and one there. So I think the next step is I've got to order some tubing, and I've got to make some patterns for the 1, 2, 3, 4 flange types. So I'm then probably going to try and get them laser cut, because it's a lot of elbow grease needed and I don't have that much in stock. Right, so sometime later I start off with a rough sketch out of the dimensions, and then I made these by marking it up, cutting it out and sort of iterating round, and I made these, got the positions of these holes by cutting a bigger slot and making a hole in a square and then dropping it down and taping over. So I've made 2 of those, and that turns into these, some dimension drawings, which I'm going to take along to Mr. Laser Cut and get the things cut out. I've decided not to go for the exact profile of this thing, just basically cut the holes, because cutting the holes is the hard bit. I can then trim things and fettle it, as I need to. But so time to go off to the laser cutter. So slight change of plan. I went to the laser cutting place and explained what I wanted, and he uttered the immortal phrase, "You're not in a screaming hurry, are you?" And I said, well, I would quite like it fairly soon. I mean, I have got a video that I want to make, and I have got some noise that I want to make. And he explained that it's not the cutting, it's the turning my fag packet drawing into a CAD file. So I said, give it us back, I'll do it myself. So all I've got to do now is get a CAD package, learn how to create those files, create the files, email them over, and hopefully I can get it much quicker. I mean, how hard can it possibly be?
So I downloaded some software so I could start creating these DXF files, and the first package I downloaded was free but kept on crashing, so that's about useful as a chocolate fire guard. So I downloaded another one and I was playing around with that. It was going all right, but then the free trial ran out after about 45 minutes, so I bought it. Carried on playing with that, making some decent progress, but then I kind of fairly quickly realised that I was going to have to invest quite a lot of time into this to actually do exactly what I needed to do. And I'm happy to do that, but I'm also quite impatient. I want to get cracking, I want to make this stuff. So I decided to phone a friend. And that friend is a thoroughly decent chap called Andrew Goodfellow. Now, Andrew runs a company called Creative Metalwork, and not only is he a bit of a genius when it comes to all things metalwork, i.e. fabrication, coach building, machining, etc., he's also a bit of an anorak and a nerd when it comes to computers. And whilst I use probably fag packets or cornflakes packets for my designs and drawings, he is a penchant for using a CAD tool. So called him up and he very kindly agreed to do me some drawings at the same time as eating a pizza, which I thought was quite impressive. And this is what he produced. With drawings in hand, or rather on the computer, all I needed to do was email them through to a company. There's a company in Maidenhead called DMS. They gave me a very decent price, very good timescales, so I'm on my way there now to pick them up. And here we have the parts. Look at those, they are fantastic. I mean, the chances of them actually fitting straight on from my shonky patterns is about 1,000 to 1, but let's go back to the bracket factory and find out, shall we?
Right, we're now back at the bracket factory and we've got these laser cut flanges. So the moment of truth, the $64 million question is, will they fit? Place your bets, everybody. I wouldn't I wouldn't bet too much. Right. Number one goes here. Ooh, very close. Very close. Just needs a tiny bit of fettling on one side. That is very close. What about the other one? Very cool, aren't they? Okay, so this one goes here, like that. No, it doesn't. It goes like that. Ooh. Sort of. Yeah, it's a bit out, but it's a bit out there, look. I don't know what happened there. That went a bit wrong. But it's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitely good enough. I've got to do a bit of fettling on that and then it'll slide down, and I think that's going to work. So, a bit of filing, a bit of sorting out, and then we're going to get some tubes in here and see if we can get some tubes to fit. So, have you spotted the problem? I'm not quite sure why it took me so long to spot the problem, but I'm sure some of you have been screaming at the screen saying, "You've missed a stud!" And look, 1, 2, 3, 4 studs. This is the long one, so this flange should come around here. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to phone a friend, Andrew, sorry Andrew, and get these ones done again. I mean, this would actually work. But it's a bodge, isn't it? I've missed an entire flipping stud out. So this stud has to be trimmed down and this needs to be extended. But anyway, let's crack on. I'll get these done. Let's crack on. The next thing is to talk about the actual elbows that are going to go in here. Exhibit A, one mild steel elbow. I've got 12 of these, obviously, and the plan is that they slot in there like that. I'm going to have 12 of these, obviously, and they're going to point back at roughly that angle, I think. But I'm going to trim them down. These are obviously sticking up way too high, so I'm probably going to trim them. I got that bit right. The fit is perfect. I'll trim them probably down to about there, just after the bend. When it goes straight, probably 10 mil of straight, and then I'll chop them, and they'll slot down inside the flange. So I think now what we need to do is quite a lot of cutting and fettling. So let's crack on with that. So much chopping later, and I've cut all of these stubs. The bends were all in exactly the same place on all of these, apart from one, and you can tell these are the offcuts. One of them is longer, which is a bit of a pig, which means that all the other ones have to be trimmed at the other end, but I'll do that some other time. So I can start to offer them up. Well, I do actually have a couple of things to do. Firstly, this is a long stud. Now, I did offer up this stud removing tool, and I did lean on it a bit, and it didn't want to move. So what I'm going to do is actually going to cut this in situ and rethread it down there. Last thing I want to do is shear it off. That'll be disaster. So I'm going to cut it off in situ and thread it. I've also got to move my dash doodah, because obviously it's completely smack bang in the way. I'm going to have one of these like this, like that, poking right into the back of my dash. So I've got to move that around there somewhere, and of course I need to take all of that off. But I think we will start off with the studs. I've changed my mind. I'm doing the dash next, so I've decided I want it sort of in front of the engine there. I've got just about enough slack in the loom. I don't want to start mucking around with the loom again. Just got about enough slack to bring it around here. Obviously I can't mount it to the flywheel, so what I think I'm going to do is just mount it to the top of this bell housing, chop this off, make a little bracket that comes on there, bolts these, takes these two holes, looks like they're 5/16 UNC. Just bolt it to that and have it in the middle, and then I can kind of stand here and brum brum brum, switch on, exhaust coming out there. So I think yeah, we'll crack on with that next. Right, new bracket made and dash relocated. All the fireworks you saw when I was welding this was what happens when you run out of argon. But I cleaned it all up and it all came good in the end, so that is pretty strong. When I fit a gearbox, I'm going to have to redesign this again, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I could just space it off. So I'm pretty pleased with that. That's quite good. I do have to sort the loom out because these
wires don't reach the coil anymore, but rather than lengthen the wires, I think I might just move the coil sort of up over here somewhere. But I think next step is to, I talked about shortening these studs, didn't I? So I think what I'll do is I'll take the other side off and then do all the studs in one go. So let's do that next. So all studs, well, the 4 studs have now been trimmed and threaded in situ, and that all went quite well. They're all pretty good. So all I need now is the flanges, and over here at the bench I have the flanges. So these are the new ones. Here's a compare and contrast. This is what the old one looked like. Missed this bit off, didn't I? Bloody idiot. So a massive shout out to DMS in Maidenhead in England for this. That was £5. And not only was it £5, but they did it in 48 hours. They did all of these. So what I'm going to do now is try them and see if they fit. So far so good. So that's all the exhaust ones done. Particularly pleased with these because these just drop straight on. So, and the holes, everything's, yeah, top job. Really pleased with that. More luck than judgment, but anyway. So they're the inlets, center inlets, 4 more inlets. Yes, that fits. Ooh, not quite. So, very, very close. That one needs a small amount of fettling and that one needs a small amount of fettling, which in the scheme of things is trivial. So, I think without further ado, I'm going to have to start doing some welding. Right, so the flanges are prepped for welding and the pipes are prepped for welding, but I need them to be quite a tight fit so they stay where they need to stay when I tack them. And some of them are a bit loose. So what I need to do, I need to stretch this hole out using some kind of magic stretchatron, which I'll show you. Behold the magic stretchatron, otherwise known as the 3-jaw chuck. So if I wind this out using this wrench, move it through a few degrees to there. Right, hopefully this should be a slightly tighter fit now. So if we now offer it back onto the flange, it's nice tight fit. Great. All I need to do is that to all the other ones. The only snag about a V12 engine is there are 12 of everything, which is cool, but very time consuming. So anyway, I'm going to crack on with fitting all these now.
So there they all are. They're all a nice reasonable fit, and I've angled them back at 6 degrees. Why 6 degrees? Well, that's what I like. So 6 degrees it is. So what I'm going to do now is mark them and tack each one, because I still need to make sure that when I weld them, they're actually all in line. Now these look all in line, but I need to do some tacking first to make sure that they stay in line when I start to weld. So off to do some welding now, finally. So as you saw, all I did was put 2 tacks on each one. So tack there and a tack there. They're in this plane so that I can rock them up and down to adjust them. So, or rather, because when I put this back on and I put a straight edge across them, there's gaps. They're not all at the same level. So what I need to tighten them all down and bend them up or down so they're all level with each other, because ultimately I'm probably going to have a collector on here. Not sure what shape it's going to be. But I want them all to line up, so that's the next step. Right, that's pretty good now, I think. Well, more than pretty good. Bang on. So just need to carefully take them back off and tack them at 90 degrees to the existing tacks, and then that should hold them all in place. When I've done that, I'll just double check it, and when it's fine, weld them all up. So finally they are all welded up. Nice straight edge on those ones, and the way I've welded it, so I've welded it on the inside. It looks a bit lumpy. I've not bothered grounding it off, but put a lot of heat into these, so I'm pretty confident it'll, they won't snap off. So that's looking pretty good, and that's all looking pretty good. So obviously the next thing to think about is the inlets.
So if you've been following my channel, you know I've got a bit of a soft spot for SU carbs. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to use 6 SU carbs on this engine. And I've got a few carbs on the bench now, so let's go and have a quick look.
Behold a motley selection of carbs. Now these are all H4 carbs. An H4, the 4 in H4 stands for 4/8, which is half an inch, so they're 1.5 inches. Makes sense? Crystal clear? I've actually done a video all about these. I'll put the link in there somewhere so you can see it, all about SU carbs. But I've got 4 of these carbs which are sort of semi-downdraft. You have to install them such the float chamber is vertical. And I've got 2 of these side drafts, which are similar but not the same. Obviously they've all got to be the same, and the plan is to use, because the engine has got 6 inlet ports, the plan is to use 6 of these, like something like that. Now immediately you can see that the float chamber is running quite close to the exhaust, which is not ideal. Or maybe there's another arrangement I can do. Maybe I can have them staggered diagonally. I'm not sure. We'll see. I've got to think about that. But one thing is for sure, and that is that all of these carbs need completely restoring. And I'm quite keen to actually run this engine. So the plan is to actually stick the existing inlet manifolds back on so that I can run it up, see what it sounds like. But unfortunately there is a slight snag. So the snag is that the inlet manifold doesn't actually fit. It fouls on these 2 exhausts here.
So I'm going to have to come up with a cunning plan, aren't I?
So this is the cunning plan. It is a series of spacers, which is going to space the manifold up slightly higher. So each one of these is 40 mil, plus or minus a tenth. Obviously they've got to be
pretty much exactly the same height, because the head is one piece and the manifold is one piece, and if not the same height, then I'm going to get gaps. So they're about 1/10 out, and the way I made it was I cut these from the offcuts, welded in one side, taxed up the other, and then I just tapped it with 4 tacks, tapped it with a hammer to align it, and then welded it up. So they're all right. Got these dowel pins in as well, because the manifold is doweled to the head, so that goes on the head, and then the manifold goes on that. We also need some gaskets, of course, so made these gaskets, and the way that it's all clamped together is that I have to extend the studs. So I've made these little stud extenders, basically just 2 nuts welded together. The reason they're black is because after I welded it, I dropped it in oil, so that it hopefully gets this layer on, doesn't corrode. So these will screw on here like that, and then screw down onto the other studs and clamp it all down. So that's the theory. So I think without further ado, let's screw it all together.
So it's now all back together, went together pretty well, and you can see how these spacers work. Pretty obvious really. They all clamp down quite nicely. Carb linkage all connected, so there's only one thing left to do now, isn't there?
Let's take her outside and start her up, shall we?
Well, that was a very interesting run, and I think what it's told me is that in the past I've only been running on 6 cylinders. I don't think I had it running on one bank at all. So if you can see here, originally it was running on this bank, which is the right bank. It wasn't running on the left at all, so I changed the balance, got it running on the left, made a hell of a noise, and you can see now the pipes are starting to change colour, which is quite a nice look. But then it wasn't running on this bank, and finally towards the end I adjusted it so it was running on both sides, and then when you give it a good old blip, it makes one hell of a noise, in a good way, of course. So that's interesting. It's worth doing that, just to at least see that you can see what's going on with the pipes. You can hear the noise better. So all in all, very successful. With the Port Loston is feeling a little bit sort of small and lame, but hey ho. So yeah, I hope you like that. I did. I might have to do this every Sunday morning now. So what next, I hear you ask? Well, you may have noticed this parcel sitting on my driveway. It is a large mysterious object wrapped in cling film. Can you guess what it is? Yep, you've guessed it. It's a gearbox. So in the time it took me to make all of these manifolds, I managed to find a gearbox, buy it, and it's now been delivered. So the next job is to see if I can adapt the gearbox to fit the engine. I have absolutely no idea if it's going to work. I've not even opened it up, so if you want to see me do that, you're going to have to tune in next time. So if you like that, please hit like. Please do leave a comment. It helps with all the algorithms, however they magically work, and it really helps to support the channel. If you've not subscribed, please hit subscribe. That also helps too. It'll also mean that when I open the gearbox package, you'll get to find out about it. But for now, thanks for watching.